Morning, everybody. My name's Bradley Young, and you'll see it says Horinger Podcast there, but actually we're part of Gift Wrap Media. And Sam, do you want to say hi?
Oh, I could say hi. Hi, I'm Sam. I'm from Gift Wrap Media.
And what we do is we work in the world of podcasting, and we have two main arms of production and training. And I'm just going to briefly give you an introduction, and Sam's going to do a demonstration to show you how podcasting can be quite easy to put together. A good quality, high quality audio podcast, or even a small sound file can sound really professional quite simply. And the other thing we're always interested in pointing out to people, because we work specifically with CICs and charities and so on, is that we really like to encourage people to take advantage of the free software and the cheap ways. Because if you are struggling for finances and so on, you can still make good quality audio software or audio broadcasting and podcasts for quite reasonable sums of money. Maybe less than some of it is free. One of the things that Sam will demonstrate later is the free software on Audacity. But Sam and I met in 2017 on a community radio station. Sam actually built the studio, and I went along as a teacher who was retiring with an interest in music, and he trained me right through the specifics of radio presentation. So community radio is where we began. And then when that radio station sort of dissolved, basically, we went our separate ways, but we never lost touch. And when I retired from teaching, I kept the interest in community radio, and I started a podcast in my village. It was as simple as that. It was about life in a small village outside Bury St Edmunds. And even in a village of 1,000 people, there are 1,000 stories. And so it was quite easy to put out a weekly podcast with oral history, funny stories of the past, and also things like community news, what the parish council was doing. And then you build up an archive. And very, very quickly, we've produced a podcast that goes out every week in that village, and it gets about 2,000 people listening. And we'll explain more about the metrics towards the end, because that's double the amount of people who live in the village.
You may be surprised to learn that the podcast was called the Horinger
The
Podcast.
Hollinger podcast. It does what it says on the tin, which is one of the things you need to think about when designing podcasts. Keep it simple, keep it clear. Subsequently, we people through CSC, Civil Society Consulting in particular, we started to make contacts with people. And in the last 18 months, Sam has done a series of training with an LGBTQ group in Greater Manchester, Awakening Minds in Rochdale. He's been working with a group called the Phoenix Project in Ipswich. And what was the third one, Sam? UPF. Oh, of course, Peterborough Council for Volunteers as well, where we did training days. So we've done training, like we're going to take you through today. And also we've done productions. So we've been working with an interfaith organization in Edinburgh, the Edinburgh Interfaith Association, and we produce a monthly podcast for them. And we've just finished a podcast where they went into old people's homes in Edinburgh who'd had experience of the Fringe Festival. And we put the podcast together, and we've just learnt this morning they're hoping that's going to be curated and stored in the National Library of Scotland for future, for everyone to listen to. We're currently working with the Bury St Edmunds Women's Aid Centre, and we've also done, let me think. The other ones we've done are the Space to Be podcast, which is where we did a series of 6 podcasts on mental health and innovative ways in which charities and CICs were working in the mental health area: fishing, cycling, walking, hairdressing, which is such a fascinating podcast as well. And all those things were done free. It didn't cost us anything because of what we got set up. And really, that's what we want to talk about and show you today. So on that note, that's a sort of really brief run through of what Gift Wrap Media has done and the two main arms of training and production and how we began. And Sam's going to show you now something called Audacity. Audacity is a free program. You can download it's probably maybe built into most computers. It doesn't cost anything. And in it, you can edit any sound file you want. But on that note, I'm going to hand over to Sam Brilliant, who's going to take you through the next 10 or 12 minutes on Audacity and what you can do to be an editor and create your own podcast.
Wonderful. So, as Brad said, I'm Sam from Gift Media. So my background is in community radio and audio engineering. So I've had many years working and trying to work out how to make recording any form of sound more accessible to people. And uh, we're going to be starting with a program. I'm just going to drop into the chat link into the chat before I start sharing my screen. Um, Now, I obviously have zero affiliation with this program. This program is free of charge to use, and when you first see it, it's going to look a little something like this. So this is a horrible grey box. On our full training days and or our one-to-one sessions, I would take you through each individual element of this grey box and how to use it. But for today, because we've only got about 15 minutes, I'm just going to kind of show a more practical use of Audacity here. But it's worth saying straight out the gate that if you're looking to record a podcast, or if you're looking to record an advert, or basically any kind of sound, music, this is where you can begin. Um, oh, someone's about to enter. So, I in my flow. So, with Audacity and podcasting, the fundamental that I'm teaching here is applicable to more than just going making a podcast or a radio show. Um, what we're going to be looking at today is using it to record a little advert with a script that Brad and I prepared earlier. So I'm just going to make sure I've zoomed in enough to not reveal everything else, and then I will show you my little script. Um, it's worth mentioning that you don't need to script everything for a podcast. You can just go for it. You can, as long as everybody that's involved knows what you're going to be saying, you can just do it. Here we go. If I just bring this across. Here we go. So here I have a short script which I will be recording, and one of the things we're going to be thinking about here is the tone of voice that we use, because we always have to think about who this is going to be for. And since for me and Brad, it's very useful for us to tell you about Gift Rep Media and what it is that we do, uh, why don't I record a quick advert? Ooh. So, I will be saying GiftWrap Media is a community interest company dedicated to giving you the opportunity to give yourself and your project a voice to be heard. Through podcasting, you can share your stories, celebrate your successes, and engage with your community. GiftWrap Media has already helped many achieve their goals. Now it's your chance to give yourself the tools to do the same. Contact us via our email info@giftwrapmedia.com or through our website www.giftwrapmedia.com. Should be fairly easy for me to read through. Um, so I'm going to open it to you lot before I press record. Record. Wow, I'm speaking odd this morning. before before I go into that, uh, what what's one thing that could change the tone of this piece? And feel free to answer in chat or unmuting. But has anyone any suggestions as to what would change how I speak about this? How I sound when I'm saying it? Speed, smiling in chat, excellent answers. How quick I read it is going to absolutely change how it comes across. Smiling is an excellent answer, Karen, because if I'm all moody and drop my face, it's not going to sound very good. Uh, So we've got tone of voice there. We've got the way that I'm throwing myself into it. But before I even do that, I'm going to move my script out of the way. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to open up my File Explorer. I'm going to take this piece of music here, click and drag. Ah, and it's in Audacity now. Isn't that lovely? Now then, we're going to have a quick listen to this piece of music because that's going to change how I speak. Because I believe you get the idea with the piece of music there, but it would be mighty strange for me if I were to do the enthusiastic Gift Wrap Media is a community interest company kind of, or doing a rockers yeah sort of thing to this. We want to be calm. We want to enjoy this. So, to that end, I have my microphone set up. I go to the audio setup and make sure that the recording device is the correct thing. And for me, as you can see, I've got a huge list of devices, but I've chosen my microphone, which is my USB microphone, which makes everything very easy for me. Some of you may have headsets. Some of you may just be using your phone or laptop, and your phone may come with its own audio recording device, which is great because you can just press record on that, connect it to your computer, and put it into Audacity to edit. So, let's have some fun with this. Ooh. Now, my first classic mistake here is forgetting to uh, create a new track. In Audacity, if you just press record, it will just add it onto the end. You'll never overwrite something. It will always just add it onto the end. So I'm just going to double click that, press backspace, and then press back to the start, hold shift, and now we're going to have some fun. Gift Wrap Media is a community interest company dedicated to giving you the opportunity to give yourself and your project a voice to be heard. Through podcasting, you can share your stories, celebrate your successes, and engage with your community. Gift Wrap Media has already helped many achieve their goals. Now it's your chance to give yourself the tools to do the same. Contact us via our email, info@giftwrapmedia.com, or through our website, www.giftwrapmedia.com. And now I've recorded the whole advert. So, the key thing is we're going to have to listen back to that now and see if I said everything correctly. Because the nice thing here is we don't have to do this in one go if I haven't. And Brad, before I press play, is there anything that you're thinking is going to be noticeable?
Well, I think one thing is obviously because your voice is quite quiet and the music was loud in the background, we don't hear the key information, which is your voice. So obviously we want to correct that. And obviously it's very, very long, the music. So we probably need to reduce it to about 30 seconds. So those are two things that people would automatically, I suspect, think, well, that needs improving.
I agree. So let's do the cheater's way of doing this. I have a little bar here on the left, which it says, which has all these little dials and dots and whatnot. I can mute this, so that we can just listen back to what I said. Gift Wrap Media is a community interest company dedicated to giving you the opportunity to... I didn't double check. You can hear this, right?
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah,
because it would be mighty foolish of me to have done all of this and not to be heard. Gift Wrap Media is a community interest company dedicated to giving you the opportunity to give yourself and your project a voice to be heard. Through podcasting, you can share your stories, celebrate your successes, and engage with your community. GIFRAP Media has already helped many achieve their goals. Now it's your chance to give yourself the tools to do the same. Contact us via our email info@gifrapmedia.com or through our website www.gifrapmedia.com. Any improvements to be made to that?
It was a perfect vocal, Sam.
Hush you. Well, I'm going to take you through a very quick bit of editing because there's a few things I noticed which will very much help us improve this. Number one, I'm going to double click it to highlight it, go to Effect, Volume and Compression, because volume is about changing the volume. Compression is about making things quieter. I don't need to compress, I just need to normalize, because normalize is just another word for amplifying. Ta-da! And I liked the pace that this was at, but I think there was a few issues with we all got what the problem there was? Breathing. But it's okay, because what I can do is I can just click and drag, press generate, silence. And now we have silence for where I was breathing. And I'm just going to do an effect called fade in. And that, don't worry too much about that. That is just a thing I do to make sure that the audio isn't just going to bounce and clip. Don't worry about that just yet. That's something I do after years of audio nonsense. But I just scroll along and I look for these quiet little peaks, and you see, this is what you get for practice, is you can identify when someone's breathing. And scroll along. Is that a... Yep. Now, you don't need to get rid of every single breath, but because this is kind of like in the advert variety, I'm just kind of focusing on that to give us a little bit of a cleaner take. There we go. So we can go to Edit, Audio Clips, Audio Clips and Split. And that way I can just get rid of the excess recording. Highlight to the end, Effect, Fading, Fade Out to make sure it's quiet at the end. And now we can listen to it with the music. But as Brad said, the music's a bit long. So we're just going to go to the, is it in this version of it? Yes, it is. So if you go to the end of the track, you'll see currently there's this little eye tool. But if I go along to the end, it changes to this little bracket. What I can do is I can just left click, and bring that to the end of our advert. Using Control on the scroll wheel, zoom in, zoom out a little bit so we see everything. And then I'm going to introduce the envelope tool up here. And this is what's going to really change it from noisy advert, because let's actually take a listen to double check. GIFRAP Media is a community interest company dedicated to giving you the opportunity to give yourself and your project a voice to be heard. So I think we can all agree music is a bit loud there. So I'm going to use this envelope tool to click on this blue line that's appeared, click, and bring that down a little bit. And then have a listen and double check. GIFRAP Media is a community... A little bit more. And then left click once here and left click again. And then I'm going to left click here and and bring that end down. And what we've created is a nice fade out. And in theory, I have now created a whole advert. GIFRAP Media is a community interest company dedicated to giving you the opportunity to give yourself and your project a voice to be heard. Through podcasting, you can share your stories, celebrate your successes, and engage with your community. GIFRAP Media has already helped many achieve their goals. Now it's your chance to give yourself the tools to do the same. Contact us via our email info@gifrapmedia.com or through our website www.gifrapmedia.com. And that's that. We have an advert. Now, to my ear, there's a few problems with the bit of music. There's some like weird clicking going on, but that's fine. This is a piece of music that we chose to just as an example. But for the purposes of this demonstration, let's round this out with saving this. So we're going to go to File, Export Audio, and then this appears, and I'm going to export it to my computer. And CVS demonstration.wav. So I'm going to save this as an MP3 in stereo, 44100, constant 320. So those settings there are how you get the best quality MP3, because sometimes when you get an MP3, it will be like 128 kilobits, and that basically means it takes away a lot of the information as it tries to save it. But we want to keep as much as possible to make it sound as good as possible. So 44100, constant 320. And we're going to export the entire project. And it's exported. Normally it takes a little bit longer, but oh, I didn't actually pay attention to where it was saved. One moment, please. Ah, right, it's in that folder.
Can I come in there, Sam?
Yeah, come on in.
So what Sam has just done basically is shown you some very, very simple techniques. So Audacity is free, and that's probably the key thing today. And if you want to start developing podcasts, and if you want to start working in this area and producing very small pieces, maybe only something as long as that, or you want to be interviewing people and developing longer podcasts, either way, you'll end up working in Audacity, and it won't cost you anything. And we can take you through. There are fascinating things you can do with this. You can be incredibly creative with it, or you can be really simple by knowing a few simple techniques, knowing how to import and export, important, obviously, knowing how to control the amplification and the compression. That takes seconds. The machine will do it itself. How to cut little bits out or silence little bits, and then use that envelope tool. So if you've got any music and you need it to be lower in the background to control background noise, you'll be well on your way to producing really good quality audio podcasts, little adverts, and so on. It's kind of, and that's a great start. It's an easy start. And then you can have great fun after that. You experiment in all sorts of ways. We have no time at all in which we could show you the effects along the top. Sam, do you just want to go along the top just briefly? So you see the top left, it says edit and file. And then if you go along and show the effects, there you can do things like echo, and you can do reverb, or you can make it sound like a telephone call, and so on. You can do so many things. There's no way we could show you that today. Is there anything else you want to cover, Sam, at the moment? Because I think we pretty much said we'd cover those things. Did you want to truncate it, change the tempo slightly to do it to 24 seconds or anything like that?
If you would like it quicker, I am happy to make it quicker for you.
If Sam just talk in a second, I can fill in. The reason I say this is on our hot podcast, we have one or two people who are very, very slow speakers, and they take long breaths between everything and so on. And quite often they might take 5 minutes to say a few simple sentences, but you can reduce their the length of it to about 90 seconds, and they still sound plausible just by changing the tempo. And Sam might show you this now as another example.
So I like using change speed and pitch to change vinyl recordings from 45 to 33 or just general songs. Uh, but Brad, you use change tempo. And what was the number you
I
usually
usually
use?
say you can go to 20% actually.
20%.
Yeah, try 20% just to exaggerate. Yeah. So
There we go.
yeah.
GIFRAP Media is a community interest company dedicated to giving you the opportunity to give yourself and your project a voice to be heard.
Okay.
20%, bit much.
Probably too much, but nonetheless, one of the other things you can do very, very simply to say it saves you time. If you've only got 30 minutes allocation and you've suddenly found that one of your speakers is slow and you've gone on to 37 minutes of recording, you can simply do that. And usually about 14 to 20%, depending on the way they speak, you can cut that out straight away and it takes seconds. So one of the many other things. Was there anything else you wanted to cover, Sam, before we ask for any questions?
So in our sessions, we go through a lot of, well, all of this in a hell of a lot more details. But when it comes to podcasting and recording, you'll notice that this took me all of, I don't know, 10 minutes. I'm hiding my time, so I don't know what the time is. But there's a few fundamentals which we used here. We talked about importing audio into Audacity by clicking and dragging from the folder. Easy enough. Then I checked the audio setup for making sure that my recording device was my microphone. Your listed will be smaller. And then we listened to the piece of music to make sure I recorded with the right tone. I used the back to start button, held shift, and then I pressed record so that I could listen to the music as I was recording. You may not need to do that. You can just press record. And then we normalized to make me sound louder. Got rid of my breaths by going through, clicking and highlighting, and using generate silence. And then we used the envelope tool found up here to bring the volume of the music down and add fades in and out. And finally, we go to File, Export, and Export to Computer, and we chose an MP3 at 44,100, 320. And that is how you make a podcast. How you record is up to you. You don't need to have a USB microphone. You can just use, say, the headset you're using right now. You were able to set up your headset to use it for Zoom. It is exactly the same method to set it up for Audacity. You just need to find the audio setup menu and recording device. Then, if you're not so sure about that, you could also use your phone. Most phones come with an audio recording app. It's the same process as the music. You plug your phone in, move the file to your computer, if you can find it, fingers crossed. Share it with yourself on WhatsApp or put it onto a Google Drive if that's easier. Download it, drop it into Audacity, cut out all the extra noise around it, add your piece of music, or maybe not. Remember, with this piece of music here, we paid to a royalty fee for this so that we could use it in these demonstrations. When you make a podcast, please be aware that you can't just put copyrighted music into your podcast because that's not very legal. But you can pay for or get royalty-free music for free. Brad has a link for that somewhere. I think that more or less covers the technical side of this. So I'm going to press stop share